So we need to somehow bring the industry to the point, not the point. Okay. Can I take it? Sure. I'm gonna move on this way. Hello? 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 Okay.
你们听到吗？有，我们这边听得到，我们这边听得到。这你可以再讲。这个喜欢，那你们那边可以再讲对方。你们有听到吗？你们听得到，但是我听不到你们声音。刚刚可以很细的。
Yeah.
你听得到我的声音啊？现在可以。
When I get over there, more microphones over there. So use the one that.
Can you hear it?然后那个不好意思，你们也买，然后你可以一开始再买一次。哦，好。有什么意思？我在猜，我们可能料理那个料理分享介绍。 新品我在这里讲的，我们在比较远的地方讲的话，会好一点。所以我现在就可以等我一下，我这一句。
You want to complete some then you have to compute some mix.
Yes.
Someone should say
So maybe I
yeah, that's video.
新品可以再帮我们讲一下话吗？我看看麦克风会不会好一点。
Yeah.
I think she is. Where is the?
How I think start.
Or the sticker. And this is for my
Okay.
spectrum.
Try array
and speak into it.
好，新品可以再听一下那个声音的状况吗？
If she can hear you. But we cannot hear her.
Because I think the Poreg is not working now. Where's Poreg?
That's the ProRec is this.
Is that?
Yeah,
Have you opened this?
it's all on.
So
On Bluetooth, we are connected to Bluetooth.
yes, we have maybe. Oh.
Sorry, we're still texting the online speakers. So we have the snake and the water and then at the back. So feel free to
it's
use
one of those
it. I think
settings
we'll
that-
start.
You think we did wrong by going on Bluetooth or?
Actually, the Bluetooth is now connecting, but I don't think it's working now. So maybe I'll
Turn it off.
turn it off and change back to, I think we can just add a little bit echo.
Okay. And then if we are too close to this, we definitely have echo.
Yeah. 你可以再帮我们测试一次声音吗？有人听哦，我们现在听不到你的声音哦，不好意思，再等一下。好，再试一次可以吗？大家都听得到我们的声音是不是？因为你现在讲话我们听不到，我在猜是不是你？你刚刚你们是不是会用另外一支，会用维姐那个主妇联盟的账号？因为你现在我们是听不到声音的，嗯，可以。哦，听不到你的，等一下哦。对，我现在还是听不到你们，你现在听不到你的声音。我有在看你的那个讯息。没有，这不是，这个是那个主办方的，那个场地方。我现在刚刚可以，可是现在听不到你们的声音。好，等一下哦，我用另外一个很烂。我们再讲
Hello,
话
we
看
can hear
看。
you.
Now you are out of the, now you're back to the,
I'm now back to the. To 不行，这个声音太小了。
away from,
Does it?
you don't see it enough.
Oh, I know that's because of this. It doesn't connect to the computer. We cannot hear what we're saying.
Okay.
So maybe we have to connect back. Connect the
Next one. Oh, next one. Okay. So, dear everyone, good morning. Thank you for joining Adaptation for Vulnerable Population. And my name is Kristen Lei. I will be your moderator today. And first of all, we are very honored to have Minister of Environment, Taiwan, Chi Min-pong, to give us a brief introduction for today's event. So we will have the brief video from Chi Min-pong. Wait a moment.
Hello to all our friends joining us at Climate Week, New York City, and to everyone connecting with us from Taiwan. I'm Chi Min-pong, Minister of Environment of Taiwan. It is my great honor to welcome you to this important forum on heat adaptation for vulnerable populations, jointly organized by the Taiwan Green Energy for Charity Association and the STUF Asia Pacific Center, with the support of the most invisible threats of the climate crisis. From Taipei to New York, from Europe to the world, and a large heat wave are placing unprecedented pressure on lives, health, and livelihoods. In Taiwan, reports of the heat-related illness continue to rise every year. In New York, heat waves are already known as a silent killer. We know that vulnerable and marginalized groups, the elderly, the outdoor workers, low-income families, and tenants are often the first and the hardest hit. This underscores the urgent issue of the climate justice in the face of the extreme heat. That is why Taiwan's government has taken proactive steps. In June 2025, the Ministry of the Environment launches the Heat Adaptation Alliance, bringing together central government and the local government and the private sector and the civil society. More than 110 organizations from retailers and online platform and air condition providers, transport services, construction companies, and even the pet-friendly service industries have already joined, working hand in hand to develop a solution for the extreme heat. We are also creating a nationwide cool map, encouraging business to open their spaces to the public, providing the safe cooling shelters so citizens can find the relief in overheated urban areas. Extreme heat and the urban heat island effect are challenges faced by an increasing number of the cities worldwide. I especially commended Taiwan civil organization for bringing this crucial issue to the Climate Week, New York City, where this forum shines a spotlight on heat adaptation for vulnerable populations. It not only connects the international best practice, but also showcases Taiwan's innovative civil actions, while integrating the principle of gender equality and ensuring that no one is left behind. I also want to recognize the SDG Heroes Group and from the Taiwan Green Energy for Charity Association, who have brought young leaders from Taiwan to join this international climate gathering, taking action for the future of the next generation. Finally, I would like to share a simple phrase: where there is a will, there is a power. In the face of the climate change, we are not powerless. With everyone's participation today, we can learn from one another, strengthen our connection, and co-create inclusive equality and innovative solution for heat resilience. Let it is to forum not just about the dialogue between Taiwan and New York, but a real starting point for change. Let's turn today's talks into tomorrow's solution and work together to keep our Earth cool. Thank you.
gender equally and ensuring that no one is left behind. I also want to recognize the SDG Heroes Group and from the Taiwan Green Energy for Charity Association, who have brought young leaders from Taiwan to join this international climate gathering, taking action for the future of the next generation. Finally, I would like to share a simple phrase: where there is a will, there is a power. In the face of the climate change, we are not powerless. With everyone's participation today, we can learn from one another, strengthen our connection, and co-create inclusive equality and innovative solution for heat resilience. Let it is to forum not just about the dialogue between Taiwan and New York, but a real starting point for change. Let's turn today's talks into tomorrow's solution and work together to keep our Earth cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. So today's event is Taiwan Quality Association, TGECA, and STUF Asia. And today's event we also have online participant from Taiwan, and we would like to send Taiwan Climate Network TCAN to a program. Hello, yeah. So next, I would like to invite TGECA host Dr. Hui-Ping Chen to say a few words. Please, Dr. Chen.
Okay. Hello, everyone here in New York and all of my friends join us online for this forum. I'm Phoebe, a founder of Taiwan Green Energy for Charity Association. Today, it's a pleasure to be here with you today and talk about some hot issue in our time: the heat adaptation, gender equality, and climate resilience for vulnerable groups. And to begin, I will briefly introduce TGECA and share and how we empower everyone and ensure that no one is left behind in a sustainable future. So, how we make this vision it cannot up to the next slide. Okay. How we make this vision into reality? We have two key initiatives. The first is the Green Well 100 initiative. We have, by mobilizing the donation efforts from the companies and the public, we deliver renewable energy and carbon reduction resources to where they are most needed. And we have second, the Gender Wave and Net Zero initiative. In 2024, we launched the Taiwan Gender Net Equality into Net Zero transition, and through gender responsive energy training and climate education programs, we invite more young women and girls to have green skills and climate education programs. And we also created the SDG Hero Group, and I'm the captain of the SDG Hero Group. And we enable more women and girls to participate in climate action. Okay, in the Green Well 100 initiative, we have three innovative green energy models. The first is a green energy charity. We combine the donation efforts from the company and public, and we build solar PV systems for the disadvantaged groups. And we will buy several solar panels, and we will return the energy profit to these disadvantaged groups for 20 years. Next. And we also have the second is the carbon reduction charity. We help social welfare institutions to replace energy intensive equipment and generate carbon credits, and that can sold to some companies. And the third, next. We also have the green electricity charity model. We support the shelter workshop by social welfare organizations, and they will use the green electricity to put down to make some like the soap, the handmade soap, and to become more energy justice gift. This is a soap, and we will give to our speakers. And we also have the tea bag. This is the tea bag from the Shaozu tribe. They will have some green energy for charity projects. And next. And through our Greenwell 100 initiative, we have finished more than 30 projects, and we donate more than 5,700 solar panels, individual or elderly or people with disabilities. We not only bring green energy and carbon reduction to disadvantaged groups, but also integrate energy and climate education to empower everyone. To date, we have partnered with over 130 companies and nonprofit organizations to advance our vision. Next. Through our Gender Wealth and Zero initiative, we have also empowered more than 200 women and girls to participate in climate actions and become change makers. Next. This year is our first time come to the Climate Week in New York, and we hope maybe we will come here again next year, and we will take our SDG heroes in actions. And today we have 3 young girls to come here and prepare this forum. And finally, I look forward to power on our forum, and we will have a successful and inspiring event today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chen. And next, I would like to invite staff Executive Director Rebecca Sun to say a few words. Please, Ms. Sun.
Thank you. Good morning, every distinguished speaker and the guests. I'm behalf of STUF United Fund, and we located in New York, actually. And I'm the Executive Director of the Asia Pacific Center of STUF United Fund. So that's why I come here, and this is a very treasured chance to have the co-work with the Taiwan Green Energy for Charity Association. Yeah, and thank you for Huiping, she and all the partner hold this forum, and I think it's a very important task for us. Thank you. And I'm Rebecca, and I'm a lawyer, and I also the chairman of ESG committee of Taiwan Bar Association. And the same, I'm the director of the Asia Pacific. So that's why I, on behalf of the staff, allow me brief introduce the. I have no presentation, sorry. And then the STUF United Fund is an international NGO with special consultative stakeholders. Our Asia Pacific Center based in Taiwan is dedicated to advancing the sustained global initiatives and the local actions, including like the Huiping's task. We focus on empowering youth, amplifying diverse voices, and creating cross-sector partnerships that drive meaningful change. Today's theme reminds us why this mission matters. Extreme heat is not only an environmental challenge, it's a human challenge. It affects women, children, the elderly, and the communities. Addressing it requires solutions that are not only innovative, but also equity-centered and inclusive. We are grateful to our partner, the TGECA, and to all today's distinguished speakers for contributing their expertise and leadership. As we begin, let us keep one thought close to heart. Behind every number, every statistic, there's a real person, a grandmother, a child, a neighbor. Here, the adaptation is not just about the infrastructure or technology, it's about protecting people we love and communities we cherish. If we can remember that, our work will not only be effective, it will be truly meaningful. Thanks for all.
Thank you, Ms. Tran. And also I want to introduce our guest speaker today. We have Mr. Diego De Leon from Out of Sustainability, and online speaker, Mrs. Xinping Wu from Homemaker Unite Foundation. Yeah, she's there. And Ms. Brooke Zhang from Taiwan Future, and Mr. Conan Lewis from XTR, and Dr. Huiping Chen from TGECA. And now I would like to invite all the guest speakers come to the stage because Dr. Chen will give the gift to you. Please. And wait a moment, we'd like to have the group picture with all the speaker and the co-host. Great. 1, 2, 3, smile. Good. Okay. So the speaker can go back to and now we would like to have a group picture with all the participants today together. And can everyone maybe sit closer to the center and we will have the group picture.
Thank you so much for everyone.
Yeah. There's some people come to the front. Yeah. Thank you.
I got everyone.
All right, let's look at the camera. Yeah, we also have the biggest flag. Okay. Okay, so look at the camera. 1, 2, 3, smile. Yeah, amazing. Everyone is so beautiful. Thank you so much. So now we are going to the panel discussion section, and first our speaker will give the 10-minute presentation for each topic, and after that we will have the Q&A section. So first of all, our speaker is Mr. Diego De Leon, and he currently serves as an Out of Sustainability Advocacy Chair and is the founder of the Cares and Climate, and he is also a Senior Associate Director in New York office. So let's give to Chris.
Thank you very much for being very patient, especially during this very busy time. I know it's hard. I just can only imagine all of your agendas. So very, very grateful for all of you being here. And again, thank you to the organizers. Also, just before I start, mention that I'm highly encouraged by the commitment of all the organizers and the participants of the SDGs, particularly currently living in a country here in the US where not everyone has been upholding this commitment. It's really encouraging to see that the US is not necessarily always representative of everything that's happening in the world, and to commend the work of Taiwan and the Taiwanese people upholding the SDG commitments of sustainable development and not leaving anyone behind. Also to recognize the words of the minister and the commitment of the Taiwanese government to protect vulnerable populations from climate change. My presentation will focus on that, and it's very again very encouraging, and I'm very grateful that for the Taiwanese government for working on these topics. And then to the previous speaker mentioning about the stories behind every number. I will when I was preparing the presentation, I was trying to kind of get available the most up-to-date data and information, and then trying to provide you with numbers and statistics. But very important to remember that behind those numbers, there's always people that have stories that are worth remembering. And then I'll because I'm sure my fellow panelists will also touch on this, but and also the minister mentioned how increasingly frequent and lengthy heat waves have become in the last couple of years. This is a problem that not only affects countries in the global south, but also is deeply affecting developed countries or the so-called global north. This is an issue that, of course, affects those countries that are, closest to the tropic and to the equator line. But that's not to say that not other countries, particularly in developed regions like North America, Europe, and also in the South, particularly Australia, are being deeply affected by this, as well as the Asia Pacific region, where again, thank you to our current organizers. This is one of the most devastating impacts of climate change, together with hurricanes, tornadoes, the fires, and other extreme weather events that are directly linked to the increase of the average temperature of the planet that we know has been a direct result of the increase of greenhouse gas emissions concentration in the atmosphere in the last 50 years. Some statistics, again, remembering that these are not just numbers, have claimed around 24,000 lives just from June to August of this year, 3 times as many as we've been lost without climate change. And then we know that this is a increasingly problem. And if we look at what happened in the UN headquarters on Wednesday, when countries presented their updated climate commitments, we're still not nearly close to what is needed to be done in order to prevent an increase of 2 degrees Celsius, much less 1.5. Next slide. So of course, heat waves have multiple impacts. We have changes in societal behavior. This includes changing patterns in our particularly our consumption patterns and increased use of the usage of water, electricity for cooling systems. Also being less active outside and trying to find places where people are able to cool down a bit. There's also the direct physical and mental health damages that are caused for populations. There's proven reduced economic and social productivity. People work less. People are more absent in work. There's crop failures. There's a series of issues that affect both society and the economy. And of course, the surge of health threats, particularly from waterborne diseases. Again, mostly in the tropics, we're also seeing an increase of, because of the longer periods of heat, we see increase on illnesses such as dengue, malaria, and other vector-transmitted diseases. But the important part of, and what I want for you to keep from this presentation is that, of course, not everyone experiences these effects in the same way, and that there are factors, both social, demographic, economic, that do affect the degree in which people experience this impact. So because of, and we'll talk a little bit more on specifically the sex and gender and age components, but there are also very important components such as income, socioeconomic status, race, indigeneity, disabilities that greatly influence the degree in which the impacts of climate change affect people. We have different and intersecting identities, each and every one of us. And because of those identities, the experience that we have in relation to climate change and specifically heat waves is different. Next slide. So I'm going to focus for my presentation specifically on the United States, where I work and where we've concentrated the majority of our work. I have to say there isn't a lot of information that on the direct impact of the climate change and heat waves on particularly the LGBT plus community, but based on the information that we have, and this is data that was collected at a census level in 2021, we see that particularly LGBTQ+ youth, which comprises people between 18 and 25, experience 25% more homelessness or housing stability. But then there is a component, again, once we disaggregate that data by in this case, race, such as Native Americans, Asia Pacific, Latino, or Black population, the numbers vary, again, because of this intersecting impacts. And then, of course, the issue also between gender identity, which, of course, refers to, for example, trans and non-binary people, and a difference also between sexual orientation, so people that identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexual. Next slide. Then it's important to also, it's not only heat waves, the latest data, this is based on data from 2024 on the national pulse census data. We see that LGBTQ population collectively also, and this is just displacement. This is extended displacement, so people that remain displaced for a year or more. In comparison with their cisgender heterosexual counterparts are experiencing, in some cases, up to 3 times more displacement than. So again, it's not only heat waves, although heat waves is particularly important because of the prevalence of homelessness rates. And again, this is the United States, but we see this as kind of something that can be easily understood or replicated in other parts of the world. And then just to finalize in the last minute, you know, we talked about potential solutions, and there's nothing new, like it's things that we can already do. I want to focus on the last part because when we, out sustainability, We've worked on this research. We've worked with policymakers. We make this information available. And recently, as of this year, we were able to pass a law, the Senate Bill 990 in California, that as of 2029, the law requires for all the disaster risk reduction agencies to consult and include safeguards for the LGBTQ population. So any plan that has to do with extreme weather events, but also earthquakes and all this. So it's not limited to climate, but other impacts, particularly, California fires are a big concern, again, linked to heat waves, will require the explicit consultation and safeguards for the LGBTQ population. And then just to on the last 30 seconds, one slide before, it's a shame that, but there is also at the global level, we've identified currently from the large number of countries that have presented their national adaptation plan, 23 already incorporate issues related to LGBTQ people. However, this varies on the degree of kind of the level of engagement, with the minority having kind of the transformative potential. And then finally, for this presentation, I looked at the Taiwanese national adaptation policy, which is contained within the National Climate Change Action Guidelines. And I was very encouraged to see that within the health pillar, they do acknowledge the need to work with vulnerable populations in order to ensure their health needs. So, and would love to later engage with the organizers to understand how this is further being implemented. But again, thank you very much. A lot of information, I know, but we'll have a Q&A session and happy to respond to any question that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Leo. And next one is our online speaker, Mr. Xinping Wu, and she is the Senior Director at Homemaker United Foundation in Taipei, and spearheading successfully solar energy initiative and shaping energy policy with gender inclusive perspective. So now, Ms. Su, you have the floor. Thank you.
There's about 80% chance that at least 1 year between 2025 and 2029 will be warmer than ever. In 2020, Taipei recorded 60 days with temperatures about 36 Celsius degree. By 2050, average temperatures across Taiwan will projected to rise, with Taipei expected to face around 20 days annually exceeding 36. And over the past 30 years, the annual average temperature in Taipei and other major cities such as Taichung and Tainan has increased by about 1.5 Celsius. Okay, next page. I would say unequal heat issue will also bring unequal life quality. This is the heat map in Taipei City. As you can see from this map, the hottest area is also the low-income communities. And people who live in low-income communities usually have fewer air conditions equipment, so they are more vulnerable when facing the heat issue. And in those communities, also a lot of inhabitants are elderly people who live alone. So for solving this issue, In this year, our government just launched some approach and strategies. First of all, the first vulnerable group is outdoor worker. The Ministry of Labor just amended the Occupational Safety and Health Act this year. And another important ministry is Ministry of Environment. They are more focused on elderly people, especially those elderly people who live alone with heart disease, as introduced by the opening speech. They already framed an alliance for heat adaptation strategy. And on the right side, you can see it is a framework for the alliance. It includes local and central government departments and enterprises and communities. And next page is the roadmap of heat adaptation strategy. As you can see, they just launched the demonstration of cool map and also identifying the vulnerable population from the summer of this year. And for next page, from the governance aspect, in Taiwan, from 2024, the government has established the Chief Sustainability Officer, CSO, and the government also formed the platform for those CSO, and the CSO are also usually the deputy minister or deputy mayors. However, these CSO are more focused on mitigation instead of adaptation. So as NGO will suggest, the better approach could be chief heat officers like what you have in Miami and Arizona, because CHO have the right to improve urban design to reduce heat. And there are also some important tools like Cool Map. On the left side, you can see this is the app of Cool Map. You can search, is there any cool share spots nearby you? Some are indoor and some are outdoors. So if you visit Taiwan in this summertime, you can see on the right side, some convenience store or shopping mall, they will have this poster on the window. It says if you feel hot, if you feel uncomfortable in these hot days, you can come inside to share our air condition. And this is a really nice example in Europe. It's called Forecaster Health website. I wouldn't say it's a cool map, it's actually a heat map. As you can see from this map, you can categorize different groups by gender, by age, or even by disease, and also by region. So it will be helpful for the policymakers to make certain policy for certain groups of vulnerable people. And another issue I want to raise is renewable energy. Renewable energy always take into account as mitigation tool, but actually it can also should be take as adaptation tool. As mentioned in the previous version of NDC, there are already 64 countries have mentioned renewable energy as adaptation tool. Because if we apply renewable energy, it can avoid trade-off effect. For example, in the hot days, people always turn on the air condition. However, the electricity could also generate emissions. So if those electricity generate by renewable energy instead of coal, then it can avoid trade-off effect. These are some beautiful examples. The first one on the up, it's PV shade canopies. It's applied in Barcelona. On the left side, it's the real case in our office. It's only 20 watts solar panel. It can apply a portable fan. And on the right side, it's also a portable AC. And it connects to 1.5K PV. And we also did experiment in a real parking lot. One side of the parking lot is covered with solar panels, and another side just exposed from the sunshine. So we parked two cars and also test the temperature inside these two cars. And this can lead to 20-degree difference. And another issue is about the children welfare. As you can see from the slide, in the park, when children go to the park in the sand pits in the hot summer days, it can above 57 degrees, and for the artificial grass, it can even go up to 80 degrees. It can burn the children. And if those park.
Next page, please.
Next page. In Taipei City, and also in Taipei European School, you can see they apply the solar panel as shade to provide shade for children and students. And it can also provide a cooler space for elderly people. The last thing I want to raise is the behavior change. A lot of gentlemen, especially in Asia, they are really shy to protect themselves from heat because masculinity. But when they dress like in the picture, when they dress beautiful suits in hot summer day, even 40 degrees, it means when they go back to the office, they always need stronger AC. So people stay in the office, especially women, could easily get cold, and those men could easily get heat stroke. So I would say toxic masculinity is not just harmful for women, it's harmful for everyone. There's something we're also trying to change the behavior, like persuade more men to using umbrella, because using umbrella in hot summer day can lower the perceived temperature by 3 to 7 degrees, and it can also reduce sweat by 17% compared with only wear hats. Okay, that's the last slide I have. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Fu, for a very amazing presentation. And our next speaker is Mrs. Brooke Zhang, and she is the senior associate with Taiwan, where she manages pipeline and diligence on adaptation and resilience technology. And now, Ms. Zhang, you have the floor. Thank you. You low enough? Okay.
That's not, can you hear me okay? Like, okay, thanks. So multiple place, but. I can just say that. That's not working. Yeah, okay, anyways. Yeah, it's the words. Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. Thank you so much for having me here. The topic of heat adaptation is very near and dear to Taiwan Futures and our mission. And that mission is a part of which is investing in early stage climate adaptation resilience technologies. So as she mentioned, I'm a senior associate here, and I manage our investment pipeline, also develop our impact investment framework. And so for this presentation, I'll be speaking from this perspective and sharing some examples of what a heat adaptation technology looks like, because it can many different forms. I'll also overview an example of a cross-sector collaboration that uses heat technologies, and then do a little bit of thought exercise to kind of get people thinking about what it means to consider gender when you're looking at technology that's designing for it. So I also want to give some background as to where I'm speaking from prior to Tailwind. So before Tailwind, I was working for a few climate tech startups and also as a project manager for New York City's longest running climate tech incubator, Lab. But my professional and personal foundation actually was originally in environmental justice, working at Justice, which is the climate law firm. And it was there that I was helping to develop the diversity and equity programs. So it's with that lens that I now approach my climate adaptation work. And so, thank you for this next slide. So, one back. Perfect, thanks. So, of course, one of the technologies we'll hear about is SCS, Mario will dig into later on, but here are some others. So, extreme heat technology spans everything from hardware and software and combinations of these two. Cryogenics here is an emergency cooling vest that, right, like normal vest, for heat stroke after it starts happening. So it's not necessarily preventative like a lot of technologies are. Think of it like the defibrillator or like fire extinguisher. Thermo shade, on the other hand, is not a wearable technology. It is a built environment solution. I think our last speaker, spoke about the shaded panels where they use solar panels to create shade. Thermo shade actually develops a phase change material that can go on top of an outdoor shade structure. And I think the temperature difference for the solar panels they described last was 20 degrees from pure sun exposure to a shaded solar area. This one cools up to 20 degrees more than a normal shade structure if they use the thermo shade phase change materials. And then finally, Visualize is an example of a software solution. They basically create a wearable, like a little watch almost, that is a digital heat stress monitor with multiple other sensors to warn, say, outdoor construction worker if they're near the risk of stroke. So there's one more example that's not on here, but that's because I'll do the example next, and that's on parametric insurance, just something that this climate especially. I'm curious if other people also see more talk, right, about the insurance space and how it's so needed for climate action and some of these applications. But first, who here knows what parametric insurance is? Okay, but no worries, I do not know if you use that. Okay, so basically, if you go to the next slide, and one more. Oh. Maybe I forgot to add. Okay, we'll verbalize. Oh no, thank you. Okay, great. So if we think of typical insurance, say car insurance, home insurance, most of the times after a disaster such as a heat wave occurs, it'll take weeks, if not months, for someone to come assess the damage on your property, home, etc. And then after that, you will get some kind of payments depending on the level of damage. Our parametric insurance, and it's not like an end-all solution, but it is a great support to help you cover from safety waves, is that the payment usually comes out much faster because all it needs is to say, hey, this policyholder with this heat insurance, that box insurance, they experienced a temperature that hit above, let's say, 99 degrees Fahrenheit. As soon as the insurance carrier registers that 99 degrees was hit, then that policyholder is guaranteed an automatic payment. And this is critical for faster disaster recovery, especially for folks who are facing multiple other burdens, such as women or lower income populations of color that are most at risk of these high heat scenarios. So if we go back a few slides. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so this is the cross-sector example I want to dig into here. Climate Resilience for All is a global NGO that does incredible work focused entirely on supporting the health and the livelihoods of women and other historically marginalized groups around the world from extreme heat specifically. And last year, they successfully launched this initiative called Women's Climate Shock Insurance Initiative with private sector player, Swiss Re, which is one of the largest reinsurers and insurers in the world, as well as this trade union based in India called SIWA, or the Self-Employed Women's Association. So the first location for this project obviously was in India. We're working with SIWA. And basically they were able to create more financial resilience to recover from heat waves for 50,000 women by combining a micro parametric heat insurance solution with also cash payments, so that you didn't have to pay, say, an extremely high temperature, say 105 degrees Fahrenheit, before women were able to receive at least smaller cash payments to supplement their income. And as you heard in the title of this, these are women who are self-employed, often working in informal sectors. So maybe they are working as police recyclers, or as vendors in markets, or perhaps suppliers. And so outdoors, right, in these high-risk environments. Reiterating again that in these scenarios, oftentimes, right, with women having to take on a burden of maybe caring for other family members more than other folks, that quicker financial recovery becomes even more urgent to help move forward with that system. I also want to, I guess, add some more weight onto here. So in India and the regions this project is working in, the temperatures can easily reach like 115 degrees Fahrenheit or more. So that's like, let's say 47, I think, around degrees Celsius or higher. And the health impact of extreme heat, right? It's not just health, that trickles down, like I said, to financial considerations too. So that actually costs women 40 to 60% of their income. Maybe those higher temperatures cause them to not be able to sell the products, or maybe literally not as things to their lives. I'm gonna move on to the next slide. Next slide too. Okay, so thank you. So we're gonna get into this in a minute, but before we do, I want to do the thought exercise. No one you've heard of. So basically, what does it look like to consider gender on these technologies? So I'm gonna start checking. If it's wearable technology, and by the way, none of these companies and none of the companies that will speak are specifics here. I'm talking in general terms. I want to add a disclaimer. But if it's wearable, is it something that can be adjusted in its design and be just as effective for a different body shape or size, right? Say, for example, cooling vest has been tested on different body sizes. This is especially important to consider in these early stage innovations where there's constant retesting and testing and redesigns, and a lot of exploring these first customers are, and oftentimes taking this a step further. I've seen a lot of these technologies that they're first coming, but often say in the construction, in mining, manufacturing, oil and gas, energy, etc. And in these sectors, oftentimes outdoor workers who are at highest risk of extremely hard to be men. And so that might mean that that technology is designed more for that primary user, like most common user. And so if conscious awareness is not used to, make sure that solution designed to be inclusive, then it's not. So this is where maladaptation comes in. If these things aren't considered in the design and deployment of these solutions, it's possible that the risk of maladaptation can happen, which is when adaptation action has unintended negative consequences. And this can mean so many different things. You can read into this later. It's also in the IPCC's 2022 report. Basically anything from higher greenhouse gas emissions to more severe financial risks or social vulnerabilities for populations. And typically it hits sort of marginalized communities the hardest. Which no surprise, but that's why I'm thinking about thought exercises like that of these different players of what it means to deploy these solutions and design them is extra important. My last thing I'll say is that tailwinds, actually exciting news here. We are one of the first adaptation resilience focused investment firms, which is a really exciting time to be in, but that does need there's not much guidance and to look into these risks. And so we actually just kicked off a project where we're going to be developing for the first time ever guidance for early and late stage investors on adaptation to assess potential maladaptation risks of these technologies they're delivering, which super exciting. Can't say it's gonna be like the perfect end all be all project, but it's definitely a critical first step to help investors and other folks work on these solutions to hear your minds. And the last slide, thank you. This is a LinkedIn QR if anyone wants to chat further about anything I share. But I know I threw a lot at you, so question afterwards. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Ms. Strong. And our next speaker is Mr. Conor Lewis, and he is the chief of staff at STUF, Ontario, a company dedicated to protecting and empowering people facing extreme heat. And he also had experience in U.S. Army Special Operation Command, where he spent a decade leading security and development initiative across West Africa. And Mr. Lewis.
I'll go without.
Okay.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Great to be here. Thank you to the organizers. Good to see that here so that we can discuss this incredibly important topic. So as was mentioned, my name is Conor. I'm the chief of staff at STUF, where we're building tools and materials to help people with that. So a little bit about who we are, our background, why we're on this mission to do what we do. So our founder, Dr. Tiffany Good, has a background in material science. I graduated from MIT with a materials engineering degree and a medicine background. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania for MD. While she was out conducting global health fieldwork, she experienced firsthand the way that heat affected her ability to conduct work in those environments. And more importantly, how heat was affecting the communities that she was working in, both in economic and health standpoint. Myself, both our co-founder, Jack Wilson, both spent about a decade each in the U.S. military, where we spent time conducting both humanitarian and security operations throughout Africa and the Middle East. And something that I saw personally, especially working in Northern Ghana, was the way that extreme heat was, one, having economic impacts, but two, also driving conflict and instability in the region. So that's what brought us all together. And I'll kind of go through quickly since we got a lot of stats already, but I will highlight some of the health and economic impacts. All right, so from a health perspective, last year alone, 500,000 people died due to heat-related deaths, 45% of which occurred across Asia. Projected future death rates due to extreme heat are set to be on par with all infectious diseases or all cancers by the end of the century, according to the World Health Organization. Now, from an economic perspective, 80 million, the equivalent of 80 million full-time jobs have been lost, or 2.4 trillion globally by 2030. And as I mentioned, Asia is receiving a large brunt of that, with 13 million full-time jobs lost in Southeast Asia alone. And then the industries that we're seeing that are hardest hit are agriculture and construction, for obvious reasons, outdoor labor, working outside. And this is also a space where we see a lot of informal sector workers, we see a lot of migrant workers, we see a lot of communities and populations that don't necessarily have the power to make work better, right? And as was already mentioned, great point. Yes, these are large statistics, but think about the individual that is affected by these statistics, right? It's lost work time, which means lost income. All right, and then a little bit on the gender disparity. The Asia Development Fund, if you're interested, has done some absolutely incredible data on how heat affects women disproportionately. 60% more likely than men to lack access to cooling across Asia. From a health perspective, when they're more prone to heat stress due to physiological factors and increased risk of pregnancy. And then from an economic perspective, there's also a disparity, right? According to ADB, they project 260% rise in heat-related losses for women compared to 76% of men. And as Brooke mentioned, a lot of that has to do with there's the social aspect, right? They're doing a lot of homework, they're taking care of the family, a lot better with paid, and it's stuff they're pushing their All right, so now a little bit about what we're doing. We are developing advanced materials that cool skin temperature, cool body temperature without the need for electricity, batteries. And the reason we're doing this is based off of our background and based off of the communities we hope to serve, is that we want to provide solutions that are one, affordable, and two, easily accessible, right? So that don't need infrastructure, don't need access to electricity, etc. All right, so our hydrogel platform we call Hydrovolt is a hydrogel material that has been optimized for humid cooling. So what it essentially does is when placed against the skin or really any surface, but in our case the skin, it absorbs that body heat and then dissipates it out into the environment, cooling skin temperature by 9 degrees Celsius for at least 6 hours. So what we do with that material is we integrate it directly into wearable garments. So currently we have headbands, undershirts, arm sleeves, but really we can integrate it into whatever people are wearing, right? Making it adaptable, ensuring that it can be adopted across industry, across filters, right? So To Brooke's point, what we really like to do is to co-design with our end users, conduct pilots, take that feedback, and then move forward with a product that's designed specifically, in some cases with women in mind, in some cases with construction workers in mind, defense partners in mind. And we have upcoming pilots with Asia Development Bank specifically looking at making sure that our product is workable in Cambodia. So this is just some data. I'll go through this quickly, but basically internally in both environmental chambers, lab setting, as well as in the real world, we found that 13 degrees Celsius drop in skin temperature immediately qualifies sustained drop at 12 Celsius across 6 to 8 hours within side. We've also done some physiological testing with heart rate monitoring, which found a reduction in average heart rate 12 beats per minute and max heart rate of 19 beats per minute, which is indicative of lowering overall heat stress, right? Skin temperature and actual physical stress. These findings have been replicated by some of our early partners, specifically in this case, a construction company in Japan that piloted our wearables with their workforce and replicated our. All right, so some early traction here. Currently, we're partnered with both government agencies, defense, construction partners, and Singapore. Port workers, first responders who are currently piloting our wearables. We sell directly to employers, not employees, as a way to keep the costs away from the employee, right? The incentive being the return on investment in having a safer, healthier workforce that is more productive, right? Just breathable company and. All right, so as we scale, something we're very passionate about is implementing our social enterprise model, right? So we like to say that tooling is not a luxury, it's a human right, and therefore our adaptation strategies need to be affordable and accessible. So the reason we partnered originally with commercial sector, large scale defense, is one to drive product excellence, right? To iterate, to make sure the form factor is correct, and make sure that we're providing a valuable product that we can then distribute to those who need our operations. We would like to get to a point where we can then take that revenue and provide subsidized cost for humanitarian response, development, and government literature. So something I'd like to point out is our cost at scale gets significantly deeper, right? Reason that is we've purposely chosen common chemical reagents to formulate our hydrogel material. And the reason we've done that is because of the effect that economies of scale has on our pricing, right? Making it more affordable as we scale. So I'll talk about a couple scaling priorities here. CSR alignment, that's partnering, right, direct with, we'll skip that without our talk, but public integration, just to provide an example of that. In Japan, the city of Hokkaido has purchased a couple thousand units for school children, right? So that's the city making that purchase and then being able to distribute to school children through access to air conditioning, all their school environment, which obviously affects the ability to pay attention. Cross subsidization, talked about a bit. Humanitarian partnership, something that we would love to do moving forward. We feel we have very strong partnerships with government organizations right now, the private sector, but something we would love and something I hope to explore with all of you is a way to really partner with humanitarian. So it's disaster zones, refugees, for the most wonderful access. So, all right, yep. So that's our team. Look forward to talking with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Luis. And now we would like to invite our final speaker, Dr. Huiping Chen, the founder of the TGECA. So Dr. Chen, you have the floor. You need to use the microphone? No, okay.
Today I'm very pleased to introduce our new nutritions and emerging project by TGECA and that advanced gender responsive adaptation and strategies. As you see, the global vulnerability temperature continues to rise, and you can see the 2024 harvest year appear before. But we are facing if there is no parties here, only partly. Every year we will be in parties, maybe next year to the 2025, but we are parties and it's not good. The increase the extreme hot heat is putting more than 70% of the global workforce, maybe 2.4 billion people at high risk. Therefore, in 2024, the United Nations Secretary General called out for urgent global actions to address the challenge posed faced by extreme heat. And next, in response to the challenge of extreme heat, the Taiwan government has introduced several key adaptation strategies, such as the labor laws and workplace regulations, and the high temperature early warming and heat health response plans. And we also have the Heat Adaptation Alliance this year. Next. And we also, the Taiwan government also launched this cool map, like the Xinping mentioned. And next. However, we have, and we must remember one important thing, the impact of climate change and the heat and the hot weather is often unequal. That is why TGECA emphasizes the need to place special focus on vulnerable people, and our heat adaptation strategy will more focus on women and vulnerable groups. Next. And we must consider a very important question. Who is the most vulnerable people under extreme heat? We can see that from 3 dimensions. Like the first is exposure. Who are exposed to heat and how sensitive and they are to this impact. And the third, the adaptive capacity. Those most risk typically experience high exposure and high sensitive, and they will have less or low adaptive capacity. And next. According to Taiwan Ministry of Health and Welfare, the following groups are considered they are face high risk, maybe like the infants or young children, or the elderly or pregnant women, and outdoor workers, and etc. Next. Today I will pay special attention to the fact the extreme heat has a greater impact on women, such as for every 1 degree increase in temperature, the risk of women will rise by about 4%. And the heat wave will also depend on the gender inequalities. For example, in India, the heat wave will add 90 minutes per day to women's unpaid care responsibilities. And next. However, women are not only people that most affected, but like the UNDP report said, women play a critical role in driving transformation and strengthen community resilience in the face of climate impacts. Next. Therefore, through our Gender Wave National Initiative, TGECA has launched a series of gender-responsive just transition actions to address the challenges posed by climate change. Next. So you can see in the face of global warming and climate shocks, the most vulnerable people to the climate disease are socially, economically, and physically disadvantaged groups. However, we have to solve the problem. In 2023, TGECA launched the Energy Vulnerability Survey and began to develop energy audit service to these vulnerable people. Next. Okay. In 2024, we launched the first female energy auditors training program. By promoting the child care service, we enable more women and mothers can participate without worrying. They can become allowing them to bring their children to learn together. And next. And after training, we will also lead our female energy auditors to serve at social welfare organizations. That this is one. They will helping them to these vulnerable people to improve their energy efficiencies. Next. We also organize the Climate Girls Empowerment Camp to bring together young girls to learn more about the climate change. Next. In addition, the TGECA also proposed a new gender-responsive solution to address extreme heat and adaptation through this Cool Climate Magicians program. Next. The Cool Climate Magicians program consists two phases. The first one is Extreme Heat Adaptation City workshop, and the phase two is the Cool Climate Magicians training courses. Next. This is our first Extreme Heat Adaptation City workshop in Taipei, and we have the second in Tainan. Next. Okay. Next. We found that in different cities, our partners have different type of cool tips. This is a Taipei section. They told us the hand fan is very perfect, but in Tainan they talk about the cooling jacket is their first choice. And we also encourage our participants to propose some special cooling tips based on women's special needs, such as they can wear in skirt, and they can cut their hair to be short. And next. In addition, we also invite the participants to develop the cooling strategy for vulnerable people by extreme heat, such as for the elderly women or people working outdoors. And we will have some cool kits for the needs. We want to design these cool kits. Maybe we can work together Next. And we also invite participants to identify gender-friendly cool space, like this is in Taipei. They tell us the library or some women's service center is good. And next, and in Tainan City, next. The Chengong University will be perfect for women or children. They can to this cooling space. And next, in summary, creating inclusive cooling space requires I think they will have several concerns for women, children, elderly, and marginalized groups. This space need to include these important features, such as the more safety, or they will be more affordable, or they will be more comfort for women and for children. And they will have gender responsive services, and they will more community connection and inclusion. And finally, and next. Finally, and thank you for your listening, and let's coordinate us together and be part of the gender responsive climate adaptation solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Okay, so next part is our Q&A session. Wait for us to move the chair. Right, so we will want to invite the speaker come to the front for our Q&A section. Okay, thank you. Before we give to the floor, we even collect some questions for our Google Form. So we will start with those questions first. So first one, I want to invite Dr. Chen to answer this question. The participant want to see how to promote Taiwan experience to more foreign target instead of only Taiwan related people.
Okay, thank you so much for this important question. It is exactly what TGECA have been thinking about and working on. We have developed many innovative green energy and carbon reduction solutions in Taiwan, but one of our biggest challenges is how to share this Taiwan experience with more people. I think we have several things to do. The first, we need to align with the largest and most important global issue, such as the climate change or today's topic, with increasing the online conference and virtual dialogue. We can now very easily to participate in international group. And I think this is the first. We need to connect the other country, the other people online. I think this is the first. And the second, we are also seeking international resources. I mean the money. And we have got win the ABPN in 2023. We received the APEC Sustainability Seed Fund from ABPN, and which is very important for us. And we can share our experience with other countries. And the third, I think the most important is to go outside. Therefore, this year we have come to this New York Climate Week, and I think the most important thing is we have to bring more young generation to participate in this important issue, especially for Climate Week. all climate issues because the earth is belong to young people, not only we are elderly. Therefore, I think the important things we have to take more young fellows. That today we have 3 partners from Taiwan youth. And I think this is the most important thing. And we will go to the COP30 this year. I think this is very important. We have to showcase from Taiwan in many important international stage and with young power. Thank you.
How does the climate change affect the political community, something low income household or business people or like people living in and we are already like climate. The questions for all. Yeah, how do you think of climate change affect the political community, like low income people or the business people? Political balance.
Take this one. I think we all talked about it in our different presentations, and I think that we're all affected by climate change, but we're not affected the same way. I think that that's the first thing that we need to have clear, and then understand what are the factors that are increasing or also decreasing vulnerability, right? So it's an income. So obviously people with higher income have less. So how do we empower vulnerable communities to have access to those means of implementation for adaptation action, right? So finance, technology, capacity building, and then again, do the kind of brown exercise of what are those barriers, how can we overcome those barriers? So and of course, the barriers vary, as we saw.
Types. If we go even a layer deeper, say for the technology, yes, it might be borne by the immediate user who's experiencing stroke or heat stress. Let's say if that person's not able to say put on or use that technology, do you think of a layer of is the solution actually usable or user friendly to the people that they're surrounded by? Perhaps, especially for say lower income who often live with their family members who are typically older or have kids to care for. Is this product and solution usable enough where this person, maybe their pregnant woman, will be able to maneuver and actually use the solution for the person who needs it? Thinking about it in that way too, and if it's not designed for that, then of course, yeah.
Yeah, I'll a little bit of what Diego said. Great answer. It's just also recognizing that these effects compound, right? So you have an outdoor, a migrant worker who's working outside in the heat all day and then is going home not air conditioning to a home, right? So just that recognition and that there really is some real disparity between those who have access to air conditioning. They probably also have access to it at work when they go home to their food. On the other end of that, there's a large disparity, right? So recognition and talking about it and just bringing awareness to it. And then from a product implementation standpoint, a little bit about what Brooke said. It is just so unbelievably critical when you are implementing a new technology, a new innovation, to ensure that you're co-designing alongside your end users, understanding the realities of the situations and the lives that they live, and then designing products that fit that reality.
Now, the audience, yeah. Okay. This is a question for Connor, right? Okay. It seemed like the industries you work with are industries like with a lot of labor protections already, like construction or a lot of like investment in security. And I was just wondering like how those conversations may go with employers, you know, like agricultural, like industries where there are not as many labor protections, and if employers are not amenable or you're not having those conversations, or like if there's a wrong in your business model to provide directly to employees where their employers are not, you know, valuing and protecting them.
Yeah, great question. There's two parts to that. One, the thing that we found when talking to employers, whether they have culture requirements or safety requirements that they kind of have to make them look good, is the return on investment from productivity, right? That's what really resonates a lot with employers. And that doesn't mean cutting break times, right? That's all stuff there. But in that working time, because they're employer, they have a lower physiological response to heat stress, they're being more productive during that time. Second part, yeah, as a pathway to go direct to consumer, essentially to the employee. Yes, that is the plan as we scale. Upfront, having the employee provide to the employer, provide to the employee, conducting those pilots, getting that feedback, and then once the product is ready, there will be opportunity for that very reason, right? Not all of them. So, you know, figuring out how to distribute very general.
Yeah, and
Okay. I want to ask a little bit about community, because obviously the effects of experience are really different tribes, environment. And so I want to know if there's anything particular that any of you are looking at or working on in terms of addressing the compounding factors.
Yeah, I might say it from a tech standpoint, our original design for our material was not very effective in my environments. And now it's from the slides of a slab of material. We recognize that, it needs to be actively effective in my environment, and that's the object with allows for to have great impact in the environments. So if we don't have to
I've added on to that to my perspective as an investor. There's some technology across where you utilize like some kind of fan like on your body, right? Like kind of let's say in New York City, especially past summer, the fans that you can wear around the neck, they've blown up. And those work, they feel good up to a certain temperature, but in certain environments, not the exact number, but I think it might be like 105 degrees, which sounds a lot, but easily, if you work in the energy industry, the temperatures go way high. And after that point, fans actually do the opposite of cooling. They can be especially dangerous. Yeah, everyone's nodding, and that is just exacerbated if humidity is high. And so those kinds of solutions, they might work in certain environments, but that's definitely strong.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
How much do one of the best weigh?
We've actually got some samples here. They're quite light. So we print the farm materials directly onto the fabric. That's it. Yeah, it's a head version. It's like it's slowly. Yeah. So it's quite light, but yeah, feel it. It's quite cold as well. Sitting back for a week. Yeah.
My questions all are kind of building on that. So some of the other speakers talked about chronic illnesses, and I know that you guys aren't direct to consumer yet, but curious if you all have piloted, like for example, my wife has chronic illness and struggles from long COVID symptoms, and heat can exacerbate that. So if you all have worked with any of those populations who are withheld from going into the workforce, I guess in the US that would be health insurance companies and doctors and things like that, but just curious if you guys have explored that at all.
Yeah, great question. Great point. Definitely something we figured out, and definitely something to stand that we would like to get into. The medical space is a little different, right? There's a lot more testing and trials that you have to do in that way, right? So we're not there yet, but it's absolutely something that we're like to get to. You know, as I mentioned, our founder Tiffany, he was from Taiwan, from manufacturing. But yeah, she has kind of a background as well, so that is something that's basically.
Brooke, I really like your adaptation slide, and I'm wondering from your perspective, do you see certain verticals or where technologies are being developed where there is quite a big risk at that? And you know, the capital allocators that work with Tailwind, is it only the impact ones that care, or how does that actually play out live, right? Because as we know, what's in the money, what's profitable does not always, it's nice when it overlaps with what helps the most people, but that's not always the case. So curious what on the job when you run into this.
Absolutely. Question, I mentioned the project that we just got funded, like the first of its kind, and so all to say, not enough people have talked about it, right? I would say the most cutting edge, innovative adaptation investors out there, they are, but everyone's still figuring out what it means in a structured way to do, say, that thought exercise I walked you guys through. In practice, it's right now pretty piecemeal. Like there's plenty of impact frameworks out there. There's plenty of frameworks for the mitigation clean energy side of things, but those metrics and those ways of tracking success of a climate solution do not work for adaptation experience. That's just a reality. That's a really good place for working in, being like I guess one of the first adopters of it. Yeah, I wish we could do something more solid, but that's why this project is so important. So we're excited to have this do a first attempt of building that. And if anyone else has thoughts for like resources that you've seen in the industry to say work on adjacent issues, like for instance, I've seen plenty of vulnerability frameworks or ones for do no harm, say that the British investment initiative I think launched a few years back. So like taking from the existing work out there, because that definitely has overlaps with a strong social equity component climate adaptation resilience has that say the mitigation side of things hasn't really attempted.
This is something actually, and I saw you mention before because that's where the term mainstreamed a little bit from that report. But this is something that's being discussed in New York people said, but for conventional climate change, how to prevent adaptation. And countries are struggling a lot even in including the word in policy because they're afraid that could halt some policy. It is very complicated, especially when you get to large scale intervention, geoengineering, then it gets even more complicated because you don't really know to what extent are you possible harm can be good, but it's not only at the industry level, but also at the highest level. I think what we've seen, and I think Taiwan is doing a great job, is crowdsourcing and to really bring as much stakeholders as possible to really look at the different age and location, geography, with trying to really assess the risk.
Thank you so much for asking that. That's a really important point. And now, Chance, you're talking more even if people aren't thinking about maladaptation like that word, there's plenty of investors that have already did, say, using this vulnerability frameworks or do no harm, or say, thinking about it in the context of risk, right? Like that's what this is. This is a type of risk, and thankfully risk and like risk aversion in finance has already been here for like decades. So with that lens, there's I think an easier path to like diving deeper into maladaptation, which is really wonderful.
And actually, I have a question for our online speakers. Simply, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Yeah. To ask you like, how do you see the collaboration between different sectors, such as government, private industry, and local community? And yeah, how's the collaboration between them in adopting extreme heat?
Oh, that's a very important approach. Taiwan's Ministry of Environment has just set up a National Heat Adaptation Alliance, as I already present. And I think this brings together central and local governments as well as corporate. And I think that's a good start. But we also think it's important to bring community voices. For instance, groups like Taiwan Green Energy for Charity Association empower women as adaptation leaders, which is very valuable since women often share their knowledge in the communities and take on caring role at home. We also hope the government can encourage more with climate NGO working on climate policy, also adaptation policies. So within the alliance, I would recommend including representatives from communities, planning and environmental groups in the advisory group. Thank you.
If any speaker also want to answer this question? Okay. Yeah.
I'm not answer, but I want to echo. And I think today we have a very exciting conversation. And finally, I think to protect all people from the extreme heat, I think we need system transformation, not only technical, but also policy. And every stakeholders, we all need to change. I think we should have different levels actions. For personally, we can use the cool things, the cool clothes, and we can take simple actions. But also the employees, we can protect our workers from the hot weather. And also at home, we can save energy. We can cool our home, maybe. And in the building or the city level, we must design more cooling spaces like this cool map. And I think the more system transformation need to belong to the region and globally. We have to strong and together to fight the extreme heat for everyone, especially for the vulnerable people. I think this is the most important. We have also to realize leave no one behind under the extreme heat. I think this is the most important thing today. I'm very thanks for this conversation, and we have many strategies to fight the extreme heat. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, if anyone still want to ask a question for us there. We have one.
Okay, I have two questions. My name is and I'm curious about because the protection of queer community is different from every state in the US. So is it you mentioned the example in California. So I wonder that is it do they fit in the other states, do they face higher risks or the other occasions in the other states? And this is the first question. The second question is to Corner, because I think it may be not directly to the technology and your company, but given that the national security and resilience is a hot issue in Taiwan. So I'm curious about, as your experience working in the Army, how do you think that investments in climate adaptation could bring concrete change to the national side, resilience and defense capabilities? Thank you.
So I'll start with the first question. The study, the table where I showed the displacement by extreme weather, that study was conducted with the support, it was after sustainability, but with the support of UC Irvine. University of California, Irvine, and we also looked. It was not. We didn't have enough data to make a conclusive result, but we were able to identify that, for example, in the United States, states that have more restrictive legislation that is not as LGBTQ plus friendly had additional levels of displacement. So it was not just displacement, but experiencing violence, food insecurity, lack of service access, health service access, and it was in the states that have more restricted legislation, where of course, to not really the surprise of anyone, that there was a high fed. So now if we take that in a more global context, in countries where it's the LGBT community is criminalized, then of course you would experience a high fed. We also, in that same study, we also look, for example, at age, and we've talked a lot about the elder population. So particularly the LGBTQ plus elder population, because of generation, a lot of them grow up lonelier. They didn't have the right to partner, to marry. So then they tend to grow more in isolation or smaller communities, and therefore in a situation where such as extreme weather or heat waves, if you're already vulnerable, if you do not have the access to a care system, that heightens that vulnerability. So those are the type of things, and there is a relation. We need more data, we need more work on this, but there is already some findings. And I'll pass it to
yeah, so the national security question, thanks to climate change, it's an interesting one. During the last administration, there was a large emphasis put on studying exactly how climate change is affecting conflict globally. I did a lot of work on that, specifically in West Africa, Sahel, and the littoral states, and looking at how climate migration specifically disrupting conflict, and enabling organizations to take advantage of that. And there is quite a bit of data on how climate change leads to further instability, internal conflicts. That this restriction is less than and then from a adaptation standpoint for soldiers, for first responders, police forces, there's a lot of data on the fact that when it gets hotter, cities become right? Crime goes up. That's no different in conflicts, and whether they're internal civil wars, etc. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think we should do more and study more about it. It's data that we can better still that it's an issue. So we'll wait a couple of years.
And and the display of the day. We will next one. Yeah. Wait a moment. No, the previous one. Yeah, that's the takeaway that our colleague like organized by. Yeah. So thank you for today, and thank you for everyone participation, and we very look forward to seeing in the future exchange and collaboration with all in the near future. And thank you everybody, and all for today.
Oh, very good, very well. So there's a lot of you say that. Yes. Yes, so, it's, so, yeah.